Hey, what's up? I'm DJ Sixsmith. Welcome to Sit Down. Rebecca Roanhorse is here with us. Black Sun, her brand new book. Rebecca, really nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you too. I'm doing pretty good.
So you've had an amazing writing career. You've journeyed into many different areas, but I'd love to talk to you about your new book here. What was it like putting this together, and what were some of the challenges here?
Oh gosh. Well, this is really the book of my heart. So this is my fifth novel actually, but the one where I felt most free to sort of follow my muse and explore a world that I had created sort of whole cloth, inspired by the pre-Columbian Americas and the various cultures and architecture and poetry, everything, sort of from those cultures makes its way into this book. I forgot the question. Sorry,
I'll
totally.
you can
Still
just pick it up.
early.
No, it's all good. Yeah, that was perfect. Then why don't you just pick it up with just some of the challenges with putting it.
Oh, right. The biggest challenge I think was sort of finding the time. I actually did an entire draft of this novel, about 95,000 words, turned it into my editor. He thought I could do better, or at least I got the vibe that he thought I could do better. So I took it back, broke it down to its bones, and rewrote the entire thing in about 9 months.
So how long did 95,000 words take to start with?
It took about a year. It took about a year. So that often happens in writing. You do your best, you try to get the draft out there, and for some reason it's just not working. So you have to be willing to go back and revise. And really the magic is often in the revision.
So you mentioned the fact that I think this is really cool. You create your own world here. You have all this freedom. It's an amalgamation of all the things you've done. What was most surprising when you really wove the story to the point where you're like, I feel good about this. I feel comfortable.
Oh, what was most surprising? It ended up being a lot about crows. I hadn't really set out to write a story that sort of featured corvids so prominently, but they became the perfect sort of metaphor for the vengeful god that is in this book, because crows carry a grudge like no other. They remember your face if you do them wrong. They pass it down to their children and their children's children. So it was perfect, and it really started to sort of dominate the mythology of the book.
For a lot of people, they may be seeing sci-fi and indigenous people for the first time, but that is certainly not the case. This has been around for a really, really long time. So I guess my first question is, why do you think that narrative has been buried for such a long time? Why have we not focused enough on sci-fi in the indigenous world?
I think sometimes people have trouble imagining Indigenous people in the future. I think often in popular culture, we're stuck in the 1800s. We're, sort of out in the West, we're riding horses, that sort of thing. But in fact, Indigenous people are here. They're still around, they're still creating stories, and they will be into the future. So sometimes sci-fi fails us in that way. But there are a lot of folks out there writing right now, trying to make a difference, trying to bring pop culture up to date.
It feels like with this group specifically, it's just really hard to break out a stereotype also. Like this is, like you said, like it's either, we're going all the way back or we're talking about John Wayne. Like it's ridiculous that we haven't gotten past this. So what does it mean to you that you can just shine light on like, this is what it means to be a three-dimensional indigenous person in 2020 and well beyond that?
Yeah, it means everything. It's something I never got to see as a kid. I really didn't see a lot of as an adult until I started writing it and finding other writers that were doing it. So I can only imagine what it's like for my daughter. I have a 12-year-old daughter, for her cousins, for all the kids sort of coming up, not just Indigenous, but everyone, to get to see Indigenous heroes and villains even, and characters just living their lives, but also getting to have sort of magical lives and go on adventures and be the heroes in their stories.
I love that. Does your daughter check out all your books? Has she been in on all of them so far?
She has read the one that is for 8 to 12-year-olds, the race to the sun.
We'll
But
get
she
her to Black
read
Sun at some point, right?
yeah, she's not quite there yet.
When you're writing your book, where is your happy spot? Like when you're down in the weeds telling your story, like where do you like to go out to kind of paint the picture for me of what that looks like?
Yeah, you mean like physically, like a physical location, or do you
Physically,
mean
yeah,
in
and then
the
also
book?
maybe just even mentally, spiritually, like where do you have to be just to be in that writing mindset?
Oh, yeah. Well, ideally, I will be sort of cozied up in my office with my headphones on. I create a soundtrack for each novel. So I really dive into that music. Music is a big part of my writing process. But sometimes, less this year under COVID, but sometimes you're traveling, sometimes you're stuck in an airport, or you're in a hotel room and you just have to make do. So you just really learn to get into that writing space really quickly. And actually, music helps me do that as well.
That's really beautiful. I know you've mentioned in the past that writing has been therapeutic for you with your own experiences. When people read your book, what can it provide them, whether it's just an escape or whether it's healing from the past? What are you looking to do for other people with your book?
Mm. So I try to write books that operate on two levels. I think you can read my books and you can enjoy sort of an exciting, fun adventure fantasy story with lots of explosions and fight scenes and things like that. Or you can also read my novels and see sort of the deeper themes. I write a lot about trauma and overcoming violence and sort of dealing with your past, which are all things that are very important to me. So I try to sort of work on sort of two different levels for the casual reader and for those who want a little more depth to the story.
I think those are all really important things. And I'm sure with your journey, there are major differences in your writing from when you first started to where you're at now. But when you think about book one to book five, what hits you in the heart the most in terms of the difference between you as an author from that point to where you're at now?
Oh, gosh, probably confidence. I think that first novel, well, it took me 3 years to write that first novel. And I really did not know what I was doing, but it was heartfelt, it was very sincere. And it was sort of my first foray into, it was my first novel I'd ever written, period. It's certainly my first foray into publishing. And now I feel a little more savvy. I feel a little more confident that I can create characters and a plot that are interesting and that people will follow, and that people will just really enjoy the novel.
What has the reception been like so far? I know the book's been out for a little while. How does this compare to some of the previous receptions?
No, I cannot complain. It's been absolutely wonderful. People have really embraced Black Sun and seem to be enjoying it and loving the characters, which is so important to me. I want to create people that sort of jump off the page and feel real, and the world itself that is my secondary world. It's not historical. I made a lot of it up, and for people to feel like it's real, and I see reviews and posts on social media that say I want to get back into that world. I wish I could go visit there again. Uh, it's amazing. I mean, I think authors live for that.
And I think it's nice to think about a different world with everything going on in this world at this point, right, Rebecca?
Yeah, if you need a little escape, if politics is a little much, and you need to take a break, then definitely Black Sun is there for you.
Well, Rebecca, really nice to meet you. Congratulations on the book, and I look forward to reading it and all your other work down the road, all right?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.